I was standing in the kitchen with dish soap on my hands when she said it. No warning. No hesitation. I'm done. I want a divorce. The faucet kept dripping. One drop, two, three. Her voice wasn't even angry. It was hollow. Like she'd already said it to herself 100 times. Like it wasn't real anymore, not even to her. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just stood there with the sponge halfway across a greasy plate while my brain tried to reboot. I was trying to figure out what exactly I'd done in the last 20 seconds to cause this. Because surely this was a moment thing. A bad day. A misunderstanding. She walked off. That was it. No explanation. No dramatic exit. Just, don't make this harder than it needs to be. And then she left the room like she had just told me we were out of eggs. The rest of the day is a blur. I sat on the stairs. For hours, I think. At some point, I remember looking at the hallway light and wondering why it flickered like that. I should have fixed it last month. Maybe she noticed that. Maybe that's why she left. Is that insane? To think a flickering bulb broke my marriage? But that's what I do now. I dissect moments. I obsess. I go back through every breath and pause like some pathetic detective trying to solve a murder where the body is my dignity. I started talking to myself. Loudly. In the garage. In the shower. Once in line at the pharmacy. People stared. I didn't care. I wasn't embarrassed. I was leaking. I had feelings spilling out of me like oil from a cracked engine and there was no fixing it. And just when I thought I hit the floor. 3 months later, exactly 3. She calls me. 2:13 a.m. I was watching infomercials on mute. You know, the ones where they sell you folding ladders that revolutionize your life. Ironic. My phone lit up and I saw her name. Cheryl. My wife. My ex-wife? My what now? I didn't answer. I watched it ring out. Then it rang again. And again. Eventually, I picked up. She was crying. Rambling. Her voice was a mess. She said she needed help. She said she had nowhere to go. She said she made a mistake. She said, Daryl, I didn't know who else to call. And in that moment, for the first time in forever, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even breathe. I just whispered the words I'd been saving like poison in the back of my throat. Don't count on me. I hung up. Then I sat there in the dark, surrounded by crumbs, unpaid bills, and silence. And for the first time, I started to feel like I was alive again. But I should have known. That wasn't the end. That call? It wasn't a cry for help. It was the beginning of something worse. I didn't sleep that night. After hanging up, I stared at my reflection in the microwave door until the numbers reset to 12 o'clock. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to see what I looked like after finally saying something final. My eyes were sunken, my lips cracked, my face blank. Like a man who just buried something. Or someone. She didn't call back. Not that night. But the next morning, something weird happened. I got a knock at the door. It was a guy in a bright orange polo, the kind worn by storage facility employees or people who sell discount carpet. He held a clipboard. Asked if I was Daryl Cromley. I said yes because I stupidly still believed honesty counted for something in this world. Then he handed me a yellow envelope and said, she told me you'd know what to do. No name. No explanation. Just a nod and he left. I stood there, barefoot, with my hand gripping a strange envelope that suddenly weighed more than my house. I walked inside and opened it with a butter knife. Inside was a single photo, a tiny silver key, and a note written in that horrible, rushed handwriting of hers. The note just said, "It's Unit 314. Don't ask questions. Just get everything out by Friday. Please." The photo? It wasn't of her. Not just her, anyway. It was her and him. The guy she left me for. I hadn't seen him clearly before. Just blurry background glimpses on social media that I pretended didn't matter. But here, up close, they were laughing faces smashed together, her head tilted like she used to when she'd kiss my cheek in the morning. He had his arm around her and the other holding a wad of cash. My stomach turned. But something about that picture felt off. Not just the money. The background was strange. A concrete wall with numbers behind them. A red X spray painted just above her shoulder. It looked like a basement or worse, like the inside of an old bunker. I knew one thing, that wasn't some romantic getaway. So, like an idiot, I went. The storage facility was about 30 minutes outside town, tucked behind a row of abandoned vending machine repair shops and a discount mattress warehouse. It reeked of mold and desperation. Fitting. Unit 314 was near the back. I stood there for a long time with the key in my hand, sweating through my shirt, listening to the buzz of a flickering security light above me. I kept thinking, why me? Why now? But of course I unlocked it. Inside was chaos. Stacks of plastic bins. A folding table. 2 chairs. A duffel bag in the corner. And most disturbing of all, a stack of unopened mail with my name on it. Some of it months old. Some of it never sent. Letters I never wrote. Bills I never received. There were things from my address, things from our old apartment, even an envelope from my mother postmarked 2 years ago. What the hell was all this? The duffel bag was zipped but bulging. I opened it expecting, I don't know, clothes? But instead I found cash. Bundles of it. Sloppily stuffed. Not wrapped. Not counted. Easily over 10 grand. And beneath it? A prepaid phone, still sealed. A receipt for a rental car I never used. And a burner ID card with my name on it but someone else's face. I sat down on the dusty chair, heart pounding like a jackhammer in my ears. My fingers were trembling. I couldn't process any of it. That's when I saw the folder on the floor under one of the bins. Inside were printed emails. Dozens of them. Conversations between Cheryl and someone named Grayson. They were planning something. Talking about timelines. Talking about him not suspecting anything. Talking about me. It was like reading a script where I was the punchline of every sick joke. I wasn't her husband, I was the loose end they forgot to cut. One message stood out. It was dated 2 weeks before she left me. The subject line was Plan B. It read, "If things get messy, I can always pin it on D. He's too soft to fight back." That broke something in me I didn't know was still whole. All this time, I thought I'd been just the boring guy she got tired of. But now I realized I was her shield. Her scapegoat. Her insurance policy. The phone in my pocket buzzed. It was her. I didn't answer. I let it ring while I stood in the middle of that dusty unit full of secrets, breathing through clenched teeth. She had lied. But worse, she had used me. And whatever mess she was in now, she expected me to clean it up. But this time, for once, I was done being the soft one. Or at least, I wanted to be. I left that storage unit feeling like I had walked through someone else's life. Nothing made sense. The money, the fake documents, the printed emails, none of it fit with the woman I thought I married. I kept trying to convince myself that maybe there was a simple explanation, maybe she panicked, maybe the guy she left me for dragged her into something shady. But deep down, I knew better. That version of her, the one I thought was just lost and confused, didn't exist anymore if she ever had. I didn't go home. I couldn't. I drove around town aimlessly for an hour, circling streets I hadn't seen since high school, listening to the tires hum against pavement like they might lull my thoughts into silence. It didn't work. Every time I blinked, I saw that email, "He's too soft to fight back." Eventually, I pulled into a small diner that used to serve the best chicken fried steak in town. I hadn't been there in years. The sign was half burnt out, the place almost empty, and the waitress looked like she'd been working there since the Reagan administration. I needed to sit. I needed coffee and a corner and 5 minutes to not feel like I was a character in someone else's bad dream. That's when he walked in. At first, I didn't notice him. I was too busy trying to stir powdered creamer into coffee that tasted like old regret. But then I saw him looking at me. Not just looking, staring. Middle-aged, flannel shirt, hands like a mechanic's. He had a face that felt both forgettable and weirdly familiar. "You Daryl." I blinked. My brain didn't connect the dots fast enough. "I'm sorry, what?" He slid into the booth across from me like we were old friends. "She told me you'd show up eventually." My entire spine went stiff. "Who?" He raised his eyebrows like I was playing dumb. "Cheryl." I didn't know whether to bolt or punch something. "What do you mean she told you I'd show up?" "She said if anything went wrong, if the guy went dark or got violent, or if she lost the account access, she might send you to the unit." He leaned back, eyes scanning me like I was a curiosity. "I figured if that happened, you probably need to hear the other half of the story." I couldn't speak. I couldn't even breathe properly. I felt like I'd fallen through the floor of the diner and landed in some alternate dimension where everyone knew more about my life than I did. He reached into his jacket slowly and pulled out a small flash drive. Slid it across the table like we were in a spy movie. "That has a video. I suggest you watch it before you talk to her again. And don't call the cops until you've seen everything. Trust me." I didn't move. I stared at the drive like it might explode. "Who are you?" He smiled. "Let's just say I used to work for the guy she ran off with. Not anymore. And definitely not by choice." Then he stood, tossed a crumpled 5 on the table, and walked out. I sat there for another full minute, completely frozen. Then I grabbed the drive, shoved it in my jacket pocket, paid for coffee I barely drank, and left. Back home, I booted up my old laptop, the one I barely used anymore. I didn't want to risk plugging that drive into anything I cared about. My fingers trembled as I opened the folder. Just one video file. Titled 21219_CM. MOV. It started with shaky footage of a hotel room. Cheap curtains. Dim lighting. And then Cheryl. Sitting on the edge of the bed in a black dress, legs crossed, drink in hand. She wasn't alone. The man beside her? Not the one from the photos. Someone older. More polished. Maybe late 50s. He looked dangerous. The kind of dangerous that wears a tailored suit and never raises his voice. Their conversation was quiet but clear. She was laughing. Teasing. She called him sir. And then he said something I'll never forget. As long as your husband keeps signing what we send, no one has to know who's really moving the money. She smiled, sipped her drink, and said he won't even read it. He never does. That's what makes him perfect. I slammed the laptop shut. I was going to be sick. I didn't understand it all yet, but I finally knew what I had been in her life. Not a partner. Not even a mistake. I was a tool. A patsy. And somewhere out there, Cheryl had dragged me into something far bigger than a broken marriage. Something criminal. Something that could ruin me. And still, part of me hoped she'd call again. I didn't sleep that night. Again. That made, 11 nights in a row. My mattress was starting to feel like a punishment. I lay there in the dark, blinking at the ceiling fan that ticked every 7 seconds, counting the rotations like they were seconds left on a bomb I didn't know how to defuse. I couldn't stop replaying that line in the video. He won't even read it. He never does. She wasn't wrong. I used to sign documents without thinking. Power bills, insurance renewals, random papers she said were work-related or tax-related. I was too trusting. Or too tired. Or just too damn eager to prove I still mattered in the relationship even when I felt like a piece of furniture she was growing bored of. That morning, I took a long shower just to feel the water beat down on me like maybe it could wash the guilt off. It didn't. I felt like I was wearing my own stupidity like a second skin. After drying off, I went straight to the locked file cabinet she left behind. She told me it was just old paperwork. Stuff she didn't need but wanted to keep just in case. I hadn't touched it since she moved out. I didn't have the key, and truthfully, I didn't care to. Until now. But I remembered something. She used to hide spare keys in the drawer under the spice rack. A stupid spot. One time she dropped cayenne pepper on a passport and we never got the stain out. I reached back there, and sure enough, one tiny brass key taped under the plastic divider. My hands were already shaking before I even touched the cabinet. Inside was a neat row of manila folders, all labeled in her handwriting. I went through them one by one. Insurance, utilities, car maintenance, medical records, nothing unusual until I found one marked Walden Contracting Private. I opened it. The first page had my name on it. It was a signed agreement to authorize wire transfers for a company I had never heard of. There were my initials at the bottom of page 2. My signature on page 5, and a notarized seal with my driver's license info listed. The thing is, I never signed this. Not consciously, anyway. There was another one, this time with a forged co-signature from someone named Bradley Kemp. I Googled the name. Nothing came up, at least not in any obvious way. But the email on the documents ended with a e-domain. That wasn't local. That was United Arab Emirates. Why would my name be connected to an international transaction? Suddenly, I remembered something. 2 years ago, she had me sign a stack of documents during dinner. I was halfway through spaghetti and trying to catch the last quarter of a game, and she said, "Babe, just sign these. They're for the bank account updates." I didn't ask questions. I just scribbled my name like I always did. It hit me like a freight train. She'd been building this long before she left. I wasn't just collateral. I was the host, the perfect face for a string of fake companies. They used my clean record, my address, my dumb willingness to be the helpful husband, and they probably made thousands. Maybe more. Maybe tens of thousands. Maybe worse. My chest started tightening. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was sit there in my hallway, surrounded by a pile of folders and broken trust, and listen to the old fridge hum like a death march in the background. I tried calling the number from the burner phone that was in the duffel bag. It rang twice, then disconnected. No voicemail. No answer. Then my own phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Silence. Then a soft voice, hers. "Daryl, you weren't supposed to find everything. I'm sorry." My mouth went dry. "What the hell did you do to me?" A long pause. She sniffled. Or maybe pretended to. I was going to tell you. I thought it wouldn't matter by now. I thought Grayson would keep his word. Grayson, that name again. It felt like a shadow following me in every corner of this story. Who is he? I asked. Another pause. Then she said something I'll never forget. He's the reason I married you. The line went dead. I dropped the phone. Just dropped it on the tile like it was on fire. I sat there for a long time, breathing through my teeth, trying not to fall apart. She married me. Because of him? This wasn't a love story that fell apart. It was a setup. The next morning, I went to the bank to request a full account history under my name. I asked them to search for anything tied to Walden Contracting or Bradley Kemp. The clerk looked confused, then leaned in and whispered, "Sir, your account is flagged for review. We've actually been trying to reach you." My hands went cold. "Why?" She typed, looked at the screen, then hesitated. "There's been suspicious activity. International wire transfers. Some are under investigation. You may want to speak to an attorney." I walked out of the bank, wind blowing hard against my chest like it wanted to knock the air right out of me. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't just left behind. I was set up to fall. I didn't drive home after the bank. I sat in my truck in the parking lot, hands glued to the steering wheel, staring blankly at the strip mall across the street. My whole body was trembling, but not from fear. This was something deeper, a combination of disbelief, humiliation, and the slow brewing realization that everything I had believed in for the last decade had been one elaborate illusion, and I was the idiot standing center stage, smiling like the star of the show. The woman at the bank said the word investigation. That alone could have knocked me over. Investigation into me, into my accounts, my signature, my name, me, not her, not Grayson, not the mysterious man in the suit from the video, me. The only one who didn't know anything. When I finally managed to turn the key in the ignition, I didn't go home. I went to see the only person I still trusted at that point. My brother, Mitch. He lived across town. A bachelor with a messy apartment and a head full of conspiracy theories. But he'd always had my back. We didn't always see eye to eye, but Mitch never judged me. And after everything I just learned, I needed someone who wouldn't tell me to calm down or give her the benefit of the doubt. He answered the door in basketball shorts and a Wu-Tang hoodie, holding a microwaved burrito. "Dude, you look like you just crawled out of a shallow grave." I stepped inside without answering, dropped the folders on his kitchen table like they were radioactive. Mitch stared at them, blinked, then whistled low. "What the hell am I looking at?" "Proof," I said. "That my entire marriage was a lie. That I was used. That I might go to prison for something I didn't even know I signed." He raised his eyebrows. "That serious?" "Worse," I said. "She married me because Grayson told her to." That caught his attention. Mitch wasn't one for sentiment, but even he sat down, burrito forgotten. "Who the hell is Grayson?" "I don't know yet," I said. "But I have a feeling he's not just some guy she met at yoga." Mitch started flipping through the papers. "Wait, you said she took everything from the house, right?" "Yeah? So why'd she leave this behind?" I didn't have an answer. I wanted to believe it was a mistake, but deep down, I knew better. Nothing Cheryl did was accidental. Later that night, Mitch scanned the documents into his laptop and ran a quick search. He was always a tech-savvy guy, borderline obsessive. He found something I missed. On one of the wire transfer receipts, in tiny gray font near the bottom, was the logo of a firm called Riverside Atlas Holdings. A shadowy company that had been mentioned in a congressional subcommittee hearing 3 years ago about misuse of nonprofit status and international laundering loopholes. The trail went cold after that. No indictments. No media attention. Just silence. Until now. I was barely holding myself together. I kept having flashbacks to small moments, things I didn't question at the time. Like the late-night texts she'd say were from coworkers. The day she came home in a brand new coat I knew I hadn't paid for. The night she cried in the bathroom, said it was about her career and wouldn't let me in. She hadn't been falling apart. She'd been transitioning. Moving from me to him. From civilian life to whatever game Grayson was playing. That's when Mitch said something that chilled me to the core. "You know what's crazy?" he said. "This Grayson guy. I think I've seen him before." I looked up. "Where?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked into the other room and came back with an old photo album, one I hadn't seen in years. He flipped through a few pages and stopped at a picture from my wedding. It was the rehearsal dinner, to be specific. We'd taken a group photo, me, Cheryl, her family, my family, and a few friends. There, off to the side, almost out of frame, was a man in a suit, holding a glass of wine. "Tell me that's not him," Mitch said, pointing. I leaned in. My heart nearly stopped. It was him. The man from the video. The same cold eyes. The same haircut. The same subtle, smug grin. He had been there. At my wedding. Right under my nose. Standing feet from me, holding a glass of wine like he belonged. Why would he be there? I whispered. Mitch didn't blink. Because he wasn't just part of the plan, Daryl. He was the plan. I felt like the room tilted sideways. My knees went weak. I didn't remember inviting him. I didn't remember ever meeting him. But there he was, frozen in time, embedded in a memory that should have been mine alone. Suddenly everything made sense. This wasn't about money. This wasn't even about Cheryl. This was about control. About using me as a pawn in something much bigger. And somewhere along the way, Cheryl either bought into it or was bought herself. I couldn't breathe. The past 10 years weren't a marriage. They were a setup. I wasn't her husband. I was her cover story. And if I didn't do something soon, I wouldn't just be heartbroken and alone, I'd be behind bars for something I never saw coming. I didn't sleep. Again. Not even close. I sat in Mitch's cluttered living room all night, hunched over that wedding photo, my eyes bouncing between my own smiling face and the man I'd never noticed standing in the shadows behind me. Grayson. The invisible architect of my own destruction, posing like a guest. Watching. What kind of monster shows up at a wedding he orchestrated like a crime scene? By sunrise, my thoughts were racing so fast they blurred together. I was exhausted, nauseous, angry beyond reason. But underneath all of that was something quieter and scarier. Resolve. I needed answers. I couldn't keep unraveling the truth in pieces. I needed her to tell me. Face to face. No more voicemails. No more shadowy envelopes or burner phones. I wanted her to look me in the eye and say what she did. What she knew. What she let happen. I didn't tell Mitch I was leaving. I just grabbed the folder, the flash drive, the burner phone, and walked out. The air was cold and sharp that morning. Like it was trying to slap me awake. It didn't help. My brain was still foggy, but my hands were steady, which scared me more than the shaking ever did. I drove to her apartment. The one she moved into 3 months ago after walking out of our house like it was a hotel checkout. I hadn't been there since. I didn't even know if she'd answer. But when I pulled into the lot, her car was already there. That rust-colored Mazda. The same one I'd helped her pick out 5 years ago. The one I changed the oil in every 6 months like a loyal little husband. I climbed the stairs to the second floor, heart slamming against my ribs, fists clenched so tight I couldn't feel my fingers. I knocked, and she opened the door immediately, like she'd been waiting. "Daryl," she said softly. I figured it'd be today. I didn't speak. I pushed past her and walked in. The apartment was small, sterile, neat in a way that felt performed. A candle burned on the counter, vanilla, our old favorite, or maybe just another prop in her show. I turned to face her. She hadn't changed much. Hair up, oversized sweatshirt, no makeup, and still, she looked dangerous. "You lied about everything," I said, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "I didn't lie about everything," she replied. "Just the parts that kept you safe." I scoffed so hard I nearly choked. "Safe? You dragged me into money laundering. You forged my signature on federal documents. You married me on someone else's orders." She didn't flinch. She nodded. "You're right. I did all of that." She sat down on the arm of the couch like we were about to have a normal domestic chat. "And you want to know why?" "No," I said. "I need to know." She took a breath and looked me dead in the eye. "Grayson isn't just a businessman, Daryl. He's part of a network. The kind that doesn't just move money. They move identities. They erase people. They build ghosts. I didn't have a choice. You think I found you by accident? I was assigned to you." The words felt like a punch in the throat. I staggered back. Assigned. Like I was a project. "But," she continued, "I didn't think it would last. I didn't think we would last. You were supposed to be temporary. A cover. A signature on a few forms. But I stayed. Too long. and I got sloppy. My voice cracked. Did you ever love me? Silence. Then, finally, the cruelest mercy. I think I tried. Tried. Not did. Not do. Just tried. It broke something in me I didn't know was still there. Something thin and fragile. The last shred of hope I'd stupidly carried with me to her doorstep. But I wasn't ready for what came next. A door opened at the end of the hallway behind her. A man stepped out. Not Grayson. Younger. Nervous-looking. Holding a phone. Dressed in all black. Is that him? The man asked. Cheryl didn't turn. Yeah, that's him. I froze. Who the hell is that? I asked. He's here for protection, she said calmly. Grayson knows you've been digging. He's not happy. Then why did you call me? I asked, my voice louder now. Why tell me anything? She stood slowly and walked to the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of water like we weren't standing in the middle of a bomb. Because if something happens to me, I need you to tell the truth. You're the only one who still has a clean enough name to do it. I can't run. I've seen too much. The man in black was now standing between me and the door. I didn't like that. You need to go, Daryl, she said, her eyes softening just slightly. Take the folder. Take the video. Leave. Tonight. I backed up. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't even look at her again. I just walked out before whatever was waiting behind that quiet, vanilla-scented room swallowed me whole. But as I walked back down the stairs, I realized something terrifying. She didn't need me to save her. She needed me to take the fall. One last time. And if I didn't play this right, I wouldn't just lose my freedom. I'd disappear completely. The drive back from Cheryl's apartment was nothing but static in my head. Every traffic light, every turn, every honk of another car just blurred into a smear of unreality. My hands were numb on the steering wheel. I kept hearing that guy's voice, the one who stepped out of her hallway, the protection, asking, "Is that him?" It echoed like a drumbeat beneath everything else. And worse than the fear was the realization that she hadn't asked me to come to explain or make things right. She brought me there to move a piece. I was still a piece to her, still a movable, disposable part of the machinery. And it wasn't over. No. Whatever this network was, whatever this Grayson had built, I was knee-deep in it now. Legally, financially, emotionally, maybe even criminally. By the time I got back to Mitch's place, the sun was almost down. My legs felt like concrete when I climbed out of the truck. I hadn't eaten. Couldn't. I didn't even feel human anymore. When I opened the door to his apartment, the lights were off. Weird. Mitch never sat in the dark. He was one of those people who turned on every light in a room just to find his phone. I called his name. No answer. Then I heard the bathroom door close. I flipped on the lamp by the couch and that's when I saw it. His laptop, open. Desktop filled with files. And on the screen, a paused video. It was my wedding. The same rehearsal dinner video I hadn't seen in years. And in the corner of the screen, enlarged and highlighted, was Grayson's face. A red circle around it. Notes scribbled in a text file open beside it. Notes Mitch hadn't told me about. There were names, dates, mentions of Walden Contracting and Riverside Atlas Holdings, the shadowy firms linked to my forged signature. But what stopped me cold was this line at the top of the document. October 9th, 2015, initial contact. He fits. We'll keep eyes on. My heart started racing. That was months before Cheryl and I got engaged. I scrolled further. More entries. Notes written in the same shorthand Mitch always used. He abbreviated surveillance as SV and document trail as DT. He had nicknames for people. Even one for me. D equals passive. Ideal. Will not resist if pressure is emotional, not physical. I was reading a profile. A case file. On me. I staggered back from the screen. No. The bathroom door creaked. Mitch stepped out, towel over his shoulder, water dripping from his hair like nothing was wrong. "Hey," he said. "You're back early." I couldn't speak. He saw the laptop screen. Something in his face flickered. Not panic. Not guilt. Just calculation. cold and exact, like a poker player realizing the table had flipped. "You went through my stuff?" he asked casually. "You wrote that," I choked out. "You knew." He didn't answer right away. He walked to the fridge, pulled out a beer, cracked it open, and leaned on the counter. "I didn't know at first," he said. "Not everything. They approached me a year after Mom died. Said you were perfect for something. They needed someone clean, low profile, with predictable habits. You were boring, Daryl. Predictably boring. That's what made you valuable." I felt like I was going to vomit. "You're my brother," I whispered. "No," he said softly. "I'm your handler." The world tilted. My knees almost gave out. "I didn't want to do it," Mitch added quickly. "At first. But they made it worth my while. You wouldn't believe the money, Dee. And you were already so isolated. You barely noticed. You trusted everyone around you more than yourself. You wanted to be led." My fists were clenched so hard my fingernails cut into my palms. "You put her in my life," I said. "She was already on the board," he replied. "I just kept the spotlight off her while she did her job. And when I found out," he shrugged, "wasn't supposed to happen this way. You were supposed to sign the last document by June, then disappear into the system. New ID, clean exit. But you got nosy. You had to follow the breadcrumbs." I wanted to lunge at him. I wanted to scream, to punch, to tear the whole room apart. But I didn't move, because I realized something else. If Mitch was part of this, if he had been there all along, then I had never had a real relationship in my life. Not with Cheryl. Not with Mitch. Not even with myself. I had been a shell filled with someone else's instructions. And now the shell had cracked. "You're going to disappear soon," Mitch said, sipping his beer like he wasn't talking about my life being erased. "I'd suggest you run before Grayson decides you're a liability." I turned and walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't sleep that night either. But this time I didn't lie in bed waiting for something to save me. I packed a bag, burner phone, flash drive, documents, cash. I left everything else behind, because the next time someone came looking for me, they'd be the ones begging for answers. I crossed 3 state lines in 2 days. Slept in my truck. Ate gas station food. Switched phones twice. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Truthfully, I wasn't even sure myself. But I knew I needed distance from the house, from Mitch, from the life that had been scripted for me without my knowledge. I needed to breathe without someone else holding the oxygen. I spent a week in a tiny town off the grid. No hotels, just cabins. Locals who minded their own business. It was quiet. Not peaceful, not yet, but quiet enough for the fog in my mind to clear. And in that silence, I realized something. They had all underestimated me. Cheryl thought I was too soft. Grayson thought I was too passive. Mitch thought I was too obedient. Even I had believed it. But what none of them considered was what would happen if I ever stopped being afraid. I didn't want revenge. That's not me. But I did want my life back. And I wanted the truth to burn everything they'd built. So I made a plan. First, I gathered what I had, the documents, the emails, the video, the notes Mitch kept, even the original file from the wedding. Then I contacted a journalist, someone who'd covered a story years ago about shell corporations laundering money through veterans' charities. She'd been blackballed, fired, and threatened into silence. I found her teaching journalism classes online. We met in a diner 2 states over. I handed her the drive and said one thing: if I disappear, this goes everywhere. She looked me dead in the eye and nodded. Then I did something that surprised even me. I turned myself in. I walked into a federal office with everything I had. I told them everything. Showed them everything. Names, companies, dates, wire transfers. I expected to be arrested on the spot. But instead, they sat me in a room for 5 hours while agents came in and out. Turns out I wasn't the first to report on Grayson. They had been building a case for years. But they lacked the missing link. They lacked someone inside the circle who didn't know he was inside it, someone whose paper trail could open doors they'd never legally reach. That someone was me. In exchange for my full cooperation, they offered me immunity. On one condition: I testify. A year later, I sat in a courtroom and watched Grayson get led away in cuffs. Mitch too. Even Cheryl, though her sentence was reduced for testifying against Grayson in the end. I didn't speak to her. I didn't even look at her. When it was over, I walked out into the sunlight with the kind of breath I hadn't taken in years. A breath that didn't belong to someone else. A breath that felt like mine. It wasn't easy after that. I had to rebuild from scratch. New job, new place, new name in some systems. I kept things simple. I planted a garden. I adopted a dog. I went weeks without checking the news. And slowly, so slowly, I started to feel like a person again. Not a pawn. Not a fool. Just a man. I don't know what real love feels like yet. I don't trust it enough to try. But I do know what it's like to reclaim your voice after years of silence. To look in the mirror and not hate the man staring back. To finally stop apologizing for not seeing what was never meant to be seen. I still hear from the journalist sometimes. She published a full expose. It made waves. Helped bring down a few more pieces of the rotten empire that nearly swallowed me whole. She asked if I wanted my name in the byline. I told her no. I didn't want fame. I just wanted my life back. And for the first time in a long, long time, I have it.